In the beginning, before there was a world or humans, there was only Raven and her friend Coyote. Together they decided to create the earth and the universe. Raven, because she could fly, set about creating the sky, clouds, rain, thunder, lightning, stars, and the moon. Coyote, because he could run very fast, created the earth below, the dirt, the grass, the plants, the mountains, and the sea. When the world was finished, Raven and Coyote decided that it needed living creatures in it. So they created the animal people to care for the land. Now, Raven and Coyote had one last very important decision to make about life and death. Raven thought that everything should live forever, like herself and Coyote. But Coyote, who thought that everyone might become wiser and more powerful than him if they lived that long, said that everyone should die after a certain amount of time. Raven was not in favor of this idea, but Coyote persisted until she agreed. And so, everything in the world after a certain amount of time would die and never return. Then, one day, Coyote's son died. Overcome with grief, he begged Raven to change the rules. But Raven would not, as they had already made the decision together. Coyote, full of rage, blamed Raven for his son's death and vowed revenge. He then went off to a far-off land, which he had left bare when he was creating the world. In this land, Coyote found a clay pit and began sculpturing horrible creatures, which he would then breathe life into. It was Coyote's intention to have one of these creatures kill Raven. However, they all looked so terrifying that Raven could spot them a mile away and destroy them before they could get anywhere near. So, Coyote rethought his approach, and so created man. Something that looks harmless enough, but could also bring much evil to the world if he wanted. Man was also very different from the other monsters, because he could think and question everything. Although it was difficult, Coyote managed to trick man into going after Raven and broke off one of his claws for man to use as a dagger. Man reached Raven's cave and went inside. He found Raven washing the dirt off of a small silver ball. Man was also very curious and asked what the ball was. Raven said she didn't know, and that she had found it in a lake one day. She then saw the dagger in man's hand and realized what he intended to do. She offered man a choice, giving him something that no creature had ever had until this point: free will. She said, if man killed her, then he would be a monster forever. Something that killed not because he needed to survive, but to satisfy his own unquenchable blood-filled lust. Or he could spare her life, and she would make man the chief caretaker of this world, putting him in charge of all the land and animals, even the ones bigger than himself. Man thought about this for a moment, then dropped the clawed dagger to the ground. At that moment, Coyote turned up and saw that Raven had convinced man not to kill her. This enraged Coyote so much that he pounced on Raven, and the pair began a vicious battle. Raven threw the silver ball to man and yelled at him to leave. Many days passed, but man could still not figure out what the silver ball's purpose was. So, in ignorance, he threw it to the ground. Suddenly, a bright light covered the whole land. The tiny sphere had grown into a huge fireball which rose up to the sky and became the sun. Now, everything was full of energy and life, and all the animals thanked man for this new strength. As a present for man, the animals got together and sculptured their own version of him and called it Woman. They told him that she will always love him so long as he loves her. And together, much like Raven and Coyote, they will make the world full of wonder, excitement, and adventure. Many of the monsters that Coyote originally created still survive. We know them as hunger, disease, and depression. To this day, Raven and Coyote continue their fight in the cave as they are immortal and forever. The battle is always one of balance. Sometimes Coyote will have the advantage, and when this happens, they say evil manifests itself in the world. But equally often, Raven will have the upper hand, and when this occurs, they say good will prevail over evil.